Welcome to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, where we talk all things good food, good business, and good cars. And now, here is your host, Arnold Garcia, founder and CEO of Petra Automotive Products. Let's roll.
Hey, today we're doing a phenomenal episode really about Chad Robichaux, who is an incredible American hero. I call him Captain America. I've said that even he's spoke at my Petra Automotive Company's convention, and I've always said he's the Captain America, and you're going to hear that story later. But we are at Honors Cafe in Conroe, Texas, a place that is established to help veterans and just let veterans kind of hang out. You're going to hear his story again, Captain America. He also has a foundation called Mighty Oaks, which helps out veterans in addition to all the other story he has and his life and really in such a young life. Even preacher, we can add preacher to that to that resume. So Chad, thank you for being with us.
Awesome. No, thank you for yelling. And this is one of my favorite places to eat. So
when we came here for your convention, I thought it was great. That's why I thought it was a great idea to do it.
Yeah.
And by the way, red, white, and blue,
Yep.
American flag, since we're doing the whole American theme. And we do before we do anything or start. Thank you for your service.
thank you.
Thank you for every veteran service.
Yeah.
We are pro-military. I come from Cuba, which ended up being communist, and I know how important it is for us to fight for freedom, liberty, to be able to choose and decide what we want to do. And so I am thankful for you, and thank you for all the veterans that have kept this country free.
No, I appreciate that.
So we'll start there.
Yeah.
So hey, what's your favorite car?
My favorite car.
If you could buy any car you wanted, what is Chad's car? If you say Hummer, I'm gonna go crazy.
No, I think a Toyota Land Cruiser, like 70 series, the 70 series.
Yeah.
Toyota 70 series trucks.
Yeah, which kind of had a rough look to it.
It has a rough look to it, but they're like, I've driven them all over the world, and they're super reliable, and they're just a great vehicle.
Okay.
Super reliable. A lot of I think you can get them in America the way you can get them overseas, the 70 series, or even like the Toyota Hilux, which I know you can't get in America.
Right.
Turbocharged.
I've seen them in Oman. They're decked out. They are a rough-looking, tough desert kind of vehicle.
I have one in Ukraine right now that I drive around Ukraine, and it's I love it. We got it decked out.
All right.
And we've taken it everywhere. It's super reliable. I love that vehicle.
All right.
Not that it matters to car fans, but they're great to fight out of. Just their windows are like, they have nice big windows, so they're great for like special operations guys using them to fight out of.
Well, car fans are going to want to know what your car is, so that's good. All right, of all the places you've traveled, everywhere in the world you've gone, for fun or not fun, everywhere you've gone, what is your favorite place?
And there's so many. They're all different. Like, not that I love Pakistan. I actually despise Pakistan as a country. But the most beautiful place I've been is in the northeastern frontier province of Afghanistan, where the Himalaya Mountains, Hindu Kush, and Karakum Mountains meet. They all push up these giant mountain ranges. It is the most beautiful place on the planet. There's a place, it's a mountain there called Nanga Parbat, which everybody knows of K2 being the highest mountain and the most desirable mountain to climb in Pakistan. But Nanga Parbat is a little bit lower than K2, but it's actually, Nanga Parbat means killer mountain, so it's the hardest mountain to climb. So the most extreme mountain climbers would go to Nanga Parbat, and on the way up to base camp of Nanga Parbat, there's a place called Fairy Meadows. And that single place on the planet is my favorite place I've ever been. It is
Fairy Meadows.
Fairy Meadows. You drive up this mountain road. We drove up in this old Jeep that was driven by, probably had never had the brakes checked, by like some 16-year-old kid, and the road's like stapled beside the mountain, and it's barely wide enough for this Jeep to fit. And this 16-year-old kid's driving and like pointing stuff, showing. I remember when you have a traumatic experience that's sticking in your brain.
Yeah.
I remember the words "Anke Bianxe," which is Urdu for "eyes on the road." Me yelling that at him because he's like showing, and like we're on the side of this road, and you're looking out the side of this Jeep, and it's like 1,000.
There's no rail.
No,
you're going.
No, yeah, and I'm like, this thing probably, like, again, never had a brake job. But at the end of that drive, you go to this place you end up in this place called Fairy Meadows, and this river runs through this mountain valley, and it's the most beautiful place on earth I've ever been.
Wow.
And but there's so many amazing places. I love Japan. Food-wise, Peru. Peru's the best.
Peruvian food is recognized, I think, worldwide as one of the best cuisines.
Yeah.
Because you get the Japanese influence with the Latin influence.
Lots of flavor.
And it creates this incredible, dishes.
Although in Peru, the guinea pig is on the menu.
Yes.
And I tried it, and it's disgusting.
I've had the guinea pig stew as well. Yeah. I think you just can't get it through your mind. Well, you're military. You may be able to get it through your mind. But when I travel places and they throw something like that at me, you can't get it out of your mind. And they're like, no, it's normal. It's like you guys eating pork, and and you got a stew with red rice, and it's guinea pig, and in your mind you're just thinking all this stuff.
Pig,
like I just went to buy a guinea pig for my granddaughter, right? And you're like, okay, here we go.
I've been to like 50 countries, and I try to eat culturally everywhere I go. The only place I couldn't do it was in the Philippines. They have this egg with the bird still in it. Have you seen this before?
I have, yeah.
It's disgusting, and that's the only thing I couldn't get past. But pretty much of all the 50 countries I've been to, 50 plus countries I've been to, I've eaten cultural food.
Have you been to China?
Yeah.
I've ate some pretty crazy stuff there.
That's crazy street food there.
And the egg, the spoiled egg, the duck egg that's very... Yeah, there's very interesting. Sometimes I think, and I got, we have some customers in China. We make product for some manufacturers in China, but I think they do it on purpose. I'm beginning to believe that when I go to China, they do this on purpose. They just want to freak me out, and so they'll throw the most craziest dishes out, and then you feel like, I have to eat it, right? And so you start eating this stuff, and it's crazy, man.
You always say you can eat rare steak, but never eat like raw chicken or raw pork. And I was just in Ukraine, and they served out some raw bacon. And I'm like, we were like, should we? And everybody, you're kind of like,
so you did it.
Yeah, so we ate it. And it was really good. Didn't get sick. So I ate raw pork in Ukraine just recently.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That, I don't know if I could do the raw pork thing, but that would be, we did this big deal in China one time, and we went, and they were going to invite us to this place to eat crab. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're going to eat crab. I'm so excited, right? I can do crabs. I'm thinking crab legs. Yeah. No, it was these crabs from Shanghai Lake, I believe, where they open it up, and what they do is they eat the enchilada part, the orange guts.
Yeah.
So you eat that, you throw away the rest, get the next crab, open it up, eat the orange
I'm from Louisiana, so we like the orange guts.
Okay. Well, I'm a fat guy, and in China, when they give me this, I'll eat two, and the guys, like, they have hundreds of them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not a lot. And I look at the guy and I go, no, I'm full. And I can imagine him going, really? You're full?
Yeah.
You ate 2 crabs, guts, and you think that's going to be enough? But anyway, it was interesting. It was interesting. So Peruvian food, perfect.
Yeah.
This place that you're talking about, this mountain that you went to, can the public go there, or you just kind of went there because you knew it was there?
No, well, I knew it was there, but actually, anyone could go there. I mean, obviously, this is a very dangerous area.
Yeah.
But I mean, people from all over, hikers and
like I guess people that do the rock climbing.
And they'll drive through Taliban villages and.
So, hey, I'm just going to go rock climb real quick.
The Pakistan government, adventure tourism's a big thing there. Thank you so much.
Wow.
You're welcome.
This.
That looks good.
That looks good.
Speaking of raw, we got some.
That's not raw pork.
That's not raw pork. That's raw fish.
This you can eat.
Yeah, but the Pakistan government. I mean, so for someone, if you want to go climb K2, and you want to pay for an expedition to go climb K2, you're going to pay about $50,000.
Okay.
And so this is like
because it's a danger zone.
It's not just that, just the Sherpa, the equipment that gets you to the summit safely down. So I mean,
have you done it?
I've never summited K2 or Nanga Parbat. I've been to camp 6, which is about 19,000 feet of Nanga Parbat. That's about the highest I've been there.
Okay.
And I got altitude sickness. So,
oh no.
But yeah, I wasn't there for that. But nonetheless, like, it's a big industry. So that the the bad guys in those areas know, hey, leave the tourists alone.
Yeah.
In those areas because it's a big industry.
For sure.
So, but yeah, you're gonna drive through Taliban villages and everything to get there.
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple places around the world I can go to first. You know,
it's beautiful. I don't think I'm welcome back. So we'll just leave it at that.
Right. Hey, so all the types of food, right? We talked about Peruvian. So Peruvian, Latin, Japanese, of all the types of food, what's your favorite? Like if I said, Chad, I want to take you to a place where your favorite place to eat. What would it be? Is it steak? Is it? Oh wow! Look at this.
So I don't eat it often, but probably it's a good Italian food. And I say that like when I say good, like in Italy, like going
pasta.
No, not pasta. Like I think that's what people think when they think of Italian food, right? Pasta, but going to like Airbnb or just staying at someone's house in Florence, like in Florence, Italy, because you could rent like bed and breakfast kind of things, and you stay there and they cook for you there. Just getting like a big chunk of veal with like white sauce and peppercorn over it that some lady made.
Yeah,
like I love.
I think of all the podcasts we've done, Italian food is probably most people's favorite. But I never eat it. But I think it's what you're saying. I think it's a lot of those people are thinking pasta.
Yeah.
But I've been to Italy and Florence, and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a place in Venice where you can have chicken fried pork chop on a sauce.
It's like hearty home style food.
Right.
Not your typical like pasta, pizza.
Right. Just not fettuccine alfredo on a pizza or whatever.
Yeah. It's like.
Although the Greeks will tell you they invented the pizza, right?
Yeah. When you go to Italy and get a pizza, like you have like a pizza, and then you have like a 2 olives over here, a pepperoni over here,
right?
Lettuce, like it's like they
it's
don't
very disorganized, right?
Like,
tell us what Mighty Oaks is.
Mighty Oaks Foundation is. I'm the CEO and founder. I was the first participant probably, so I did before. To get there, I'll tell you a little bit about my family. My family's a very long history of military service. World War II, Korea. My father was the first Marine in our family who served as infantryman in Vietnam. I served as a Force Recon Marine. I did 8 deployments to Afghanistan. Both my sons are Marines. One went to Afghanistan as well. And so, big, history of the military, especially the Marine Corps, super special to us. I did 14 years total, and again 8 deployments. My job was as a Force Recon Marine, put me in a position to try out after 9/11 for a JSOC task force, Joint Special Operations Command Task Force, where I did those 8 deployments as an AFO, essentially working like undercover capacity. We don't call it that in the military, but working in an undercover clandestine capacity with local nationals. And I was partnered up with a local national in Afghanistan named Aziz, who ended up being my interpreter, my teammate, my friend. And Aziz and I did all 8 of those deployments together.
So just make sure we're capturing this, right? So you, long military line, you and your family, sounded like 5-6 generations worth.
Yep.
Okay. You're in the Marines 14 years, and then you go to Afghanistan for 8 under this undercover.
Yeah, I was at JSOC, Joint Special Operations Command, and was given this job called the AFO, Advanced Force Operator. So essentially, you go ahead of your unit to build all the clandestine infrastructure to put the assaulters on target to capture or kill bad guys.
So you're going ahead alone?
Alone, with local nationals, and Aziz being the main one. And that's what I did on hundreds of missions like that. And so Aziz and I came very close.
Kind of preparing the territory, surveillance for the troops that are coming.
Not just surveillance, a lot of logistics too. I mean, you're doing surveillance, you're doing building all the contingencies. But if you imagine if you have a special operations team going in a non-permissive environment, meaning where the military doesn't exist, is controlled by the Taliban, somebody has to go there first and do all the clandestine logistics. Safe houses, local vehicles, like assessing the target, what is going to be needed to get on target, off target. Anything that goes wrong, you have to have all the contingencies in place. Safe houses, local national weapons, ammo, medical equipment, like everything. The things, moving from point A to point B, what past checkpoints you can go through, what paperwork do you need. All that stuff somebody has to go there ahead of time and do that.
That was you.
That was our job.
Incredible.
I loved it. I didn't even know the job existed. until I tried out for it, got trained to do it, and it was a lot of fun. A real honor to serve in that capacity. But during those 8 deployments, lost 15 friends, and in addition to that, had some very difficult things happen to me. Aziz, the rest of our team, our operation was compromised. I ended up being abducted by a foreign intelligence agency. It was a pretty serious incident. Our home had a vehicle bomb driven into it. Some bad stuff happened, and ended up walking away from that last deployment in pretty bad shape. I was diagnosed with PTSD, dealt with debilitating panic attacks, anxiety, depression, led me in a 3-year downward spiral that almost cost me my marriage, and led to me almost becoming another veteran suicide statistic in 2010 when I attempted to take my life. Those listening don't know, over 20 veterans every single day take there's a lot of people that stepped up to help me in my recovery. My wife, some mentors from the church we go to, Woods Edge Church, Steve Toth, Jeff Wells, all these things that I had tried before, medicine, pills from the VA, counseling, professional success, financial success. During that downward time, I won a world title as a professional MMA fighter. So all those things, like some good things, some bad things, none of those things changed my situation until I stepped into a relationship with Jesus, became mentored and discipled into biblical living and making decisions to take responsibility for my life and make better decisions moving forward. And that led to a pretty radical transformation in my life. And through that process, God put a deep burden on my heart to pay that forward with others. And that is, to answer your question, it's what manifested in the
that is the birth of Mighty Oaks.
The Mighty Oaks, yeah, but just pay it forward.
Your experience and getting the help from people, finding Christ,
yep,
is the birth of Mighty Oaks. So Mighty Oaks takes people similar like you that have been in battle, that have been deployed, that have PTSD, maybe thinking about taking their lives. Mighty Oaks takes them,
yeah,
and helps them.
Yep, we do
find real purpose.
Find new purpose. So we have our tagline is, saving lives, restoring families, and changing legacies for eternity. And it was a tagline, but it means a lot to us because we literally every day get the opportunity to save people's lives, restore families, and change people's legacies for eternity. We get to do that. And we do it in 4 different ways. We have 4 kind of pillars of our organization. One is resiliency. We try to prevent the problem. So I go to bases, active duty bases around the world, and I've spoken to over 500,000 active duty troops about suicide prevention, resiliency, spiritual resiliency. I've given away over 500,000 copies of my books that I've written, and that's over the last 10 years. In addition to that, we have a recovery program where active duty service members, veterans, first responders, and spouses come to our camps. We do 40 camps a year. Thousands and thousands of people have come through it on active duty military orders from the veteran community. We do about $7 million a year in programming. We pay for everything. We pay for their flights, everything. And again, these could be active duty service members. They could be veterans. They could be first responders, spouses. We do 40 of these camps a year. They have 5 different ranches around the country. It's a 6-day non-clinical peer-to-peer faith-based intensive. And after this 6 days, they tie in our aftercare program and get ongoing care from our program. And many of them will be trained and discipled to become leaders and pay it forward themselves. And then our third thing we do is we do a lot of policy stuff where we go to Washington, D.C. and we advocate for faith-based solutions to veterans care, because previous administrations have written executive orders and stopped funding for that. I actually, during the President Trump's administration, pushed him to get an executive order signed to bring that back in. I was appointed as the chairman of the White House's faith-based coalition for veteran care, and we've got a lot of successes on faith-based programs for veterans care. And even if people out there listening like aren't Christians and don't agree with me on that, believe that faith-based care is effective, you have to agree that if anybody has a right to choose between clinical and faith-based care or have a combination of both, it should be our veterans.
Well, you fought, not just, I would say veterans and non-veterans.
Yeah.
Everybody should have the right to pick and choose what they want.
That's
That's what you fought for.
That's the freedoms of man, right? People shouldn't try to block.
But yes, if anybody's veterans, but really you fought for all of us to choose.
That's right.
Then
we do one more thing. We do the 4th thing is that international programs around the world. So we have an international team that goes take these same programs and helps pass them on to our allied partners around the world. And that's led to me being in Ukraine 10 times last year on the front lines. In some cases doing rescue operations, through another organization that we run. In some case, we rescued Benjamin Hall, the Fox News reporter, rescued a lot of people out of Ukraine, moved bodies of U.S. service members who had died there, trying to do the right thing of helping people. We provide medical supplies there, and then we brought the gospel to the front line. We've had combat veterans from the United States who came through Mighty Oaks that got well and want to bring the gospel to the front line and help give spiritual resilience to these troops. Regardless of anybody's political opinion about Ukraine, by the way, I think Zawitsky and the rest of them are all corrupt, but so are our politicians. We're not there for the politics of it or Zawitsky.
You're there for the
people. Yeah, and these people need help. And if you ever let your politics get away of your compassion for people,
right.
you probably change your politics.
I agree 100%. You got to help people regardless, despite of whatever's going on in politics, right? It's humans to humans.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody wants to help to give to Mighty Oaks, where do they go? Is there a website?
MightyOaksPrograms.org.
MightyOaksPrograms.org.
Yep. And so two things. One, if anybody's listening and needs help or knows someone that needs help, then send them to MightyOaksPrograms.org, because again, all of the program we provide, we do it for free. There's no strings attached, and we're there to serve. You're not alone. But for those that don't need it, it's free to those that do need it, because amazing people around the country come together and support us and have donated to Mighty Oaks. We're a 501c3 tax deductible donation. We're a nonprofit, and you can donate there and help scholarship people. It's about $3,500 to put someone through a program, and you can donate to our international effort or all of the above. Our international effort has been extremely successful as well. As you know, I mentioned in the beginning, Aziz was my teammate, and during the Afghan withdrawal, I hate to call it withdrawal, surrender.
But wait, before you go there, because that's a kind of a story I want to end with there.
Yeah.
So, military background, 5 generations, joined the military. You are this special agent that goes in, got caught by the enemy. Not even going to ask you what happened there, because that's probably going to be very bad.
Which redacted in my book, so I can't say.
Which is redacted because the Pentagon said you can't use it. All
Redacted.
right, so we can't even talk about it because the Pentagon tells us not to talk about it. But nonetheless, you were captured. You go through all of this. You got this amazing career. You're working to go to places, face the Taliban face to face, and prepare and map and diagram for people to come. In addition to that, and before we talk about some of the other military stuff, you're also a successful businessman. You also are the founder of Mighty Oaks. Are you a spokesman for Wesson?
I'm the brand ambassador for Smith & Wesson Firearms.
Yep.
Do a lot of public speaking, write a lot of books.
So brand ambassador for Smith & Wesson, a top seller. And we all think you had the top seller here for a while.
Yep.
We won't even get into that, but
you were Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Yeah, Wall Street Journal bestseller. We'll talk about that book here in a minute as well. And I'm just building all these things up to get to the story, because you do so much. You were also a MMA champion, right?
Yep.
So for what year?
Won my MMA world title in 2009. And I fought professionally until 2013. I ended up being 18-2 as a professional.
18-2.
18-2. My highest ranking was.
Don't fight Chad.
Yeah. If you're going to now, is better. 2023 is a better year.
I'm not fighting Chad at any age. And then you have some jiu-jitsu classes, right? Don't you also train on that?
I've been doing. I'm 47. I've been on the mats for 42 years doing jiu-jitsu. It gets my ugly ears and yes, I still train jiu-jitsu. I'm a 4th degree black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu under Carlson Gracie Jr., so directly under the founding family.
Okay.
And I've been grappling for 42 years, and judo, traditional jiu-jitsu. I'm a black belt in traditional jiu-jitsu as well. And but my primary martial art is Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
All right.
And,
so I'm building all of this to get to this. So he's working in Afghanistan. He's got local people working with him and our government, for that matter. One in particular is a translator named Aziz.
That's right.
Who I know that you've told me, and I'm only kind of recapping this because I know we're short on time, but saved your life a few times.
A few times, yeah. But probably every day.
Probably every day.
Don't walk there. Don't.
He was in. He was just like a Marine. He was saving your life. You guys worked together, and one day the government says we're out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And you said, we're not leaving Aziz.
We can't. Yeah, we couldn't leave Aziz. I mean, when I say like he saved my life, like tangibly on 3 occasions, but again, probably every day. And people have to realize, like, I think most people like imagine an interpreter as like someone, you have one interpreter for a big unit. He's just there to do a job, and you come back on another deployment and you have a new interpreter. That's the case for some people, and although in those cases people get close to interpreters, but Aziz and I is totally different. Like, we would spend weeks, months together operating, just the two of us. When we came home, I didn't go back to base and he went home. I went to his house and stayed at his house. Like, I ate dinner with his family. The first warm meal we got out coming out of the mountains was Hot Trips making the meal, his wife. And I played soccer with his nieces and nephews, and I held Mashoud and Mashoud I, his oldest son and daughter, when they were born. They're like family.
Yeah.
I was mortified as someone who understands military strategy. We're going to take the United States military out of the most strategic place in the globe between Iraq, Iran, Russia, and China, being Bagram Air Force Base, create a vacuum in that region of the world, in Southeast Asia, that's going to make the world a much more dangerous place and create a hotbed of terrorism. In addition to that, like, the American people were being lied to, saying that we were in this long 20-year war, this endless war. That was a complete lie. Like, and I knew that. Every other body that understands military strategy knows that. We had 2,500 troops there. I can name 10 places right now we have 2,500 troops in them. But the 2,500 troops and 4,000 at the time of withdrawal that were in Afghanistan were participating in a support and advisory role of the Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police with the entire international community. It was working together, and it was keeping the Taliban at bay, and U.S. service members were not having a fight to do it. Outside of special operations, but we do it all over the world anyway.
Right.
And so to say that we had to move our troops out was such a lie to the American people. In contrast, we have 80,000 troops in Japan still since World War II, 40,000 in Germany since World War II, 35,000 in South Korea since the Korean War, and that 38th parallel, keeping the North Koreans from coming across and creating, the instability or attacking South Korea. Like, so to say you have to move 2,500 troops out, there's ulterior motives.
Correct. Makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And the world's suffering for it right now, including 40 million Afghan people that are starving to death and 20 million Afghan women and girls that are sexually enslaved because of it. We left Americans behind. We had 13 of our service members. We're on the anniversary of it, this second anniversary of it. 13 of our service members were killed. 170 civilians were killed. 200 people were wounded. It was a disaster. I couldn't change any of that. I'd get on the news and talk about it, and I did a lot. But the one thing I could do was not leave my friend there. And so I made a decision to go get Aziz, his wife, and his 6 kids. I felt an obligation to do that. It wasn't even a, should I do this? It was one of those things that
You have to.
you have to, right? I mean, my wife and kids have a husband and father because Aziz, I can't leave him there.
Right.
And so thankfully I got some good friends, and I called some people. We got 12 people together, special operations veterans, plus one female, that's an amazing lady, Sarah Verardo, out of the Independence Fund, and we all came together and put a plan together to go get Aziz, his wife, and 6 kids, and quickly realized that it would be bigger than him. One of our team members said, hey, there's these 3,500 orphans that just got left. Why don't we help them too? And we kind of paused for a second, realized God was burdening all of our hearts to say, we have the skills, we have the experience, we had a tremendous amount of experience, Green Berets and Navy SEALs and Force Recon Marines, CIA ground branch, like paramilitary officers. Like, we had some serious experience with this willingness that God burdened our heart to go help people. We call it Task Force 6-8 from Isaiah 6-8. Hear my, send me. And we were just obedient to that burden on our heart to help as many Americans, interpreters, their families, women and children, just innocent people that couldn't help themselves. And we leaned forward in that act of obedience, and God orchestrated a miracle that didn't only allow us to rescue Aziz and his wife and 6 kids, but 17,000 other people. 12,000 in the first 10 days at the airport, which was...
So let's not go over that quote quick.
Yeah.
So you did save your translator and his family.
Yes.
But in addition to that, as you got there and saw how messed up this was, in addition to him, you got out of Afghanistan over 17,000 people.
Yes.
The second only to the U.S. government.
That's right. And I would
So
say that
after the United States government,
I would say the most vetted.
the most vetted, second most people, but probably the most vetted. But that's still, however you want to slice it, right? After the United States government, you brought out the most amount of Afghanistans that would have been killed by the Taliban. Their families would have died, suffered, etc., blah, blah, blah.
And Americans.
Child trafficking, and Americans. They got out Americans, not just Afghanistanians. But in addition to that, the most fit. That is amazing.
It's a miracle.
That's why I call you Captain America.
It was a miracle. It really was. Like, I've gotten a lot of credit for it, but the truth is, I'm not smart enough, or capable enough to pull that off. I was bold enough to, dumb enough to say yes, but
you were a piece of the puzzle that God used.
The man, it would, like, the series of events that happened were just so miraculous. Like, any one of them wouldn't have worked. In the sequence it worked, the whole thing would have fell apart. From money to logistics, access to the airport, for the Joint Chiefs to allow us as veterans to go in that airport and rescue civilians outside the wire when they wasn't even allowing the military to do it. For the United Arab Emirates to let us move people without visas to the humanitarian center, and then give us C-17 planes. And Glenn Beck to call 3 days into this and say, "Hey, I just raised millions of dollars I don't know what to do with," and we were like, charter planes.
Here's what we need.
And people from all around the world who, by the way, people don't even like me. They follow me on social media because they want to antagonize me for my conservative values and Christian values. They're like, "I don't like you, you're an idiot, but I love what you're doing. Where can I donate?" People from everywhere came together and just made this happen. It was so cool because, you know, we're in such a divided world right now, to see people come together. Like, when the governments of the world clearly did the wrong thing, I'd say not only including our own, but especially our own, good people stood up and did the right thing for the fellow human. There was a Jewish organization that went to make a donation to us. They went to pay for 2 flights. The flights were expensive. So they were making like a $1.5 million donation. And I gave them the routing number and everything. Everything's moving so fast. And they called back and said, "Hey, we can't make the donation." I'm like, "Did I give you the routing number wrong? Like, what happened?" And it's like, "No, we're a Jewish organization, and Mighty Oaks is a Christian organization. Like, this is Jewish money. We can't give it to a Christian organization." And I was just like, "Okay, that's fine, but you do realize, like, we're rescuing Muslims, right?"
Right.
And they just laughed, and the guy made the donation, and it was so cool to see, like, Jewish organization giving money to Christian organization to rescue Muslims, and people just coming together and do the right thing for their fellow human. And honestly, that was a show of God's love.
Right.
For people,
You know,
yeah.
being Christian, as you know, and I've said this before, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so you were doing something.
Well, honestly, I mean, and I'll just be straight up with this. The mosque, even in America, have not stepped up to welcome these refugees from Afghanistan. The mosque have not stepped up and did the right thing. It's been the Christian church that have.
The Christian church, regardless of who you are, where you came from, stood up, humanitarian, and did the right thing. But you were the Captain America in it.
Well, I was very privileged to be a part of it.
And then you wrote a book, Saving Aziz.
That's right. Yep.
And that book is top seller in many lists.
Yep.
A movie is going to get made of it.
That's right.
That is all phenomenal. Before you leave, thank you so much for that. I wanted to end with that story.
The people making the movie, I can't say the name offhand. They told me not to, but they told me I could say this. They made the #1 film last year in America. So,
Okay.
So that
should narrow it down.
Millions. They put millions of dollars into it. They're going to do it right. I'm allowed to be very involved. And a very important part of the story is not just the airport. It's 20 years of me and Aziz's relationship, and a big part of the movie is the last part with me and Dennis Price went to the Tajikistan, and we literally for 10 days straight we swam in Afghanistan, and to help get those women and children out. And I think that why it's such important to me is just showing how important it was and how desperate they was to get these women and little girls out because of the sexual enslavement by the Taliban of these women.
I know we only have a few minutes left, but real quickly, say that story. You went in, kind of recon, right?
Yeah.
And so you're alone, you and maybe a partner.
Yeah.
And you got Taliban on one side, Russians on one side, Chinese on one side, and tell me.
Yeah, I mean, we the women and the commandos that we trained, that we abandoned, the Afghan commandos, they were trying to get their women and children across the border of Tajikistan, across the Panjshir River. And the geography there is 25,000 foot mountain peaks. You might make it to that border and there's a 1,000-foot cliff. The water is whitewater rapids, category 5 rapids, ice melt. And now you're talking about Afghan women and children. Most of them can't swim. Half the women are pregnant because Afghans have a lot of babies. And so you're talking about moving them across the border. Then you have the Taliban there, saturated the border. The Chinese military, which the media did not report, saturated that border. including Chinese special operations, the Russian military, and mechanized convoys as big as 50 vehicles, the Tajikistan border guard. And so they needed to know how to pass. And so that's a specialty of Force Recon Marines do. And myself and a Force Recon sniper named Staff Sergeant Dennis Price went into Tajikistan. We spent 10 days on that border. We did about 90 miles of border reconnaissance. And every night for 10 days, we would swim across in Afghanistan and build these routes out. To
90 miles of recon and surrounded by all these people.
Yeah.
And not get caught.
Yeah, praise God, we did not get caught. Yeah. And we were able to provide that vital intelligence to some of our government intelligence agencies that wanted that information. They were allowed to receive it, but not allowed to go out and collect it. To our military, to some other NGOs, and to the commandos. So we were able to provide that vital information to get women and children across that border.
And that opened a path to get women and children out.
Yeah.
Safely.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that was the last thing that we were able to do at this time. That was 2 years ago. But now we're looking at some open doors to get more people out. In fact, when we leave here, I'm going to a very important meeting with the possibility of getting more out. We know there's still Americans there. We know there's still thousands of interpreters that served alongside of us, like Aziz, who are promised, by the way, by the United States government, not an opinion or not if they should get here. They were promised contractually by the United States government to have a path to citizenship.
100%.
It's a national security issue.
That's right.
It's a right and wrong issue, and it's a moral issue, but also it's a national security issue, because if our local allies in places around the world can't trust the promise of the United States government, then how do we ever
That's right.
win wars when we need local support again? And you always need local support when you fight foreign wars.
Well, I'm not going to hold you from this important meeting. Chad, thank you for being with us. You are Captain America. I love you. I love everything you do. Thank you for being a good friend, for being on this podcast. We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll do more and more things together.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being on. I appreciate everything you do and the friendship between
likewise,
us
buddy.
and Petra.
You got it.
Yeah,
you
God
got
bless,
it. Well,
man.
cheers, man.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, your main source for all things good and fun, business, food, and cars. If you like this episode, make sure to rate us and subscribe. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please leave a message at the link below. Till next time, happy eating!